What kind of man leaves his pregnant wife, then sends her a bracelet in the mail like it makes up for everything? Emily Dawson whispered the question into the stillness of her bedroom, her fingers trembling as they held the small velvet box that had just arrived unmarked, no note, no explanation. It was the bracelet she designed for their first anniversary. He had kept it all these years, and now he returned it like it meant something, like she was supposed to wear it and forget. But Emily wasn't the same woman anymore. Not since she saw the guest list with Rachel Evans' name on it. Not since she felt her baby flinch the moment she realized Daniel would rather parade another woman through a gala than acknowledge his own wife's existence. Something inside her had shifted, broken, or maybe just woken up. Because tonight she wasn't showing up at that gala to beg to weep or to win him back. She was showing up to remind him and everyone else that she still existed. And if you stay to the end, you won't believe what she places in his hand under the lights. It's not revenge. It's something far more devastating. Do you really think you can erase me from your life while I'm still carrying your child? Emily Dawson whispered those words into the silence of her sun-drenched terrace, her fingers unconsciously resting on her swollen belly as a soft wind rustled through the orange trees of Hudson Valley. But Daniel Whitmore, the man who once kissed that very belly every night, was already gone. Not a word, not a glance, not even a goodbye. That morning, the breakfast table had been set for two, orange juice freshly squeezed, coffee brewed just right, but only one person seemed present. Daniel, buried behind a portfolio on investment growth, hadn't looked up once. And when he finally did speak, it was just to check his Rolex and mutter, "I've got to head out early." No kiss, no hand on her stomach, no question about how she was feeling. Emily didn't eat much after he left. She tried to choke down toast with olive oil and tomato, her usual comfort, but her throat had clenched too tight for anything to go down. It wasn't the food, it was the hollowness, the feeling of being silently evicted from her own life. She walked toward Daniel's home office, a room that once smelled of shared ideas and late-night strategy talks. Now it smelled like expensive paper and cold absence. Dust coated the bookshelves. Her side of the desk had been cleared long ago, but his tablet was still open, glowing, and she couldn't resist. The lock opened with her fingerprint. He never changed it. On the screen was a press headline, Daniel Whitmore to headline Boston's Whitmore Foundation Gala alongside Rachel Evans. Rachel Evans. That name shouldn't have stung, but it did. She recognized the woman from a prior event, sharp smile eyes that scanned rooms like hunting grounds. The photo showed them arm in arm at a pre-gala dinner, the very same gala Emily had helped establish, the same event that had once honored her name. This year, she hadn't even received an invitation. Her legs gave out. She collapsed onto the white leather chair, where just a year ago, Daniel had surprised her with roses on her birthday. Back then, he looked at her like she was the world. Now it seemed he wanted to make the world forget she ever existed. As if on cue, her phone buzzed. A single message lit up the screen. "We need to talk. Urgently." Lauren Mitchell, her childhood friend and Daniel's executive assistant at Whitmore Global. She wasn't one to exaggerate. If Lauren said urgent, it meant something was on fire. Emily stood up with mechanical grace. She changed out of her robe into a deep green dress that hugged her pregnancy softly, tied her hair in a low bun, and stepped outside. "Julian," she called to the driver. "Get the car ready, I'm going into Boston." The city moved around her like a film she wasn't part of. Students walked in groups. People sipped lattes. Tourists posed for photos under the Back Bay Clock Tower. But Emily felt detached, like she was standing behind glass breathing someone else's air. Lauren was waiting in their old cafe near North Station, stirring her coffee too fast. When she spotted Emily, she stood and gave her a quick cheek kiss. No small talk. "Just what I'm about to tell you, you're not going to like." Emily didn't blink. "Tell me anyway." Lauren leaned in. "Daniel's showing up at the gala tonight with Rachel Evans as his official partner. I saw the VIP guest list myself. It wasn't a rumor. It was confirmation." Emily's fingers curled around her coffee cup knuckles, pale. "But there's more," Lauren whispered, pulling a silver USB drive from her coat pocket and sliding it across the table. "I copied everything I could. Emails, hotel receipts, financial transfers. He's not just cheating. He's rerouting money through offshore accounts." Emily stared at the drive like it might burn a hole through the table. Lauren's voice softened. I know what I'm risking by giving this to you, but I can't watch you be erased. You built everything with him. A waiter passed by offering more milk. Emily shook her head politely, hiding the war inside her. Outside, an old couple held hands beneath a lamppost. Emily watched them in silence. Then she stood. I have one more stop, she said. She didn't explain. Lauren didn't ask. She walked straight to Michael Carter's consulting office in Back Bay. He had once been Daniel's mentor, a man of calm words and strong convictions, the last person Emily trusted in that world. When she handed him the drive, he didn't ask unnecessary questions. After scrolling through the files, he leaned back. This isn't just betrayal, it's corporate misconduct. It could blow everything up. Emily nodded. I don't want revenge, Michael. I want clarity and protection for me and my daughter. He studied her face. Are you ready to confront him? She didn't answer right away. Her hands trembled slightly on her lap. Then, with a voice steadier than she felt, she said, he didn't leave me a choice. That night back in Hudson Valley, she opened an old box tucked deep in her closet. Inside was a dress she hadn't worn in years, navy blue off-shoulder made for a woman who once believed in fairy tales. Emily tried it on. It still fit. Not perfectly, but beautifully. And in the mirror, she no longer saw a broken wife. She saw someone who was done asking for permission to exist. She wasn't going to the gala to start a fight. She was going to reclaim her name. We're sorry to pause the story here, but trust me, what happens at that gala will leave you speechless. Do you think Emily should confront Daniel publicly or keep her power in silence? Let us know in the comments, and if this story touched your heart, please like and share this video. Emily didn't sleep that night. She sat by the window of her bedroom in Hudson Valley, staring into the darkness, watching how the moonlight carved shadows on the garden stones. Somewhere in the house, the clock chimed 3 times. The night air was still, but inside her a storm raged. She had spent the last few hours rereading every file Lauren gave her. Names, amounts, dates, betrayal wrapped in spreadsheets and timestamps. But what hurt most wasn't the affair nor the money. It was the knowledge that Daniel hadn't just replaced her in his bed or his business. He had erased her systematically, like she had never existed. And tonight, at the very gala she had once built from scratch, he was going to rewrite the story without her. Until now. At 6 a.m., she rose bathed in silence and called Michael. We're going to the gala, she said. There was a brief pause on the line before his voice answered, steady as ever. Then you're going to need a dress that speaks louder than anything you'll say. By late afternoon, a seamstress, a discreet hairstylist, and a makeup artist arrived one by one like quiet soldiers. Emily let them work. Her face pale and unreadable gave nothing away. She wore no perfume, no necklace, just pearl drop earrings and the navy blue gown from another lifetime. By 9 o'clock, she stood at the foot of her driveway as the black town car pulled up. Michael stepped out in a tailored midnight suit. No tie calmed dignity in his posture. He opened the door for her without a word, but when she slid into the back seat, he glanced over and said softly, You look like the truth. Boston glittered in the distance. The Whitmore Center for the Arts shimmered like a palace of glass. Cameras flashed along the red carpet, illuminating gowns. Tuxedos rehearsed smiles. Emily and Michael bypassed the main entrance. They entered through a side door where a protocol assistant guided them to a quiet vestibule. Ready, Michael asked. Emily looked down at her hand resting on her belly. Then she lifted her chin. Let's begin. When the ballroom doors opened, a hush rippled through the crowd. Heads turned. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Wine glasses froze halfway to lips. Even the orchestra faltered, a violinist missing a note. Emily walked in slowly, Michael at her side, not as an accessory, but as an anchor. Her dress caught the light like a moving constellation, her posture unshakable. She didn't need to say a word. Her presence alone cracked the illusion Daniel had carefully crafted. From across the room, she saw him, Daniel Whitmore, standing at the edge of a circle of executives flanked by Rachel Evans, radiant in a gold gown. His smile faltered. His gaze found Emily. For one agonizing second, the air between them thickened. His fingers tightened around his champagne flute. Rachel followed his gaze, and her expression shifted from curious to alarmed. Emily didn't stop. She moved to a table near the side wall, visible but separate. Not hiding, just choosing where to watch from. Michael leaned in. He's rattled. Good, she whispered. Let him feel what silence tastes like. 10 minutes later, Daniel was called to the stage. He walked up with the same polished grace he always had. But Emily could see it, his shoulders a little tenser, his eyes scanning too fast. His voice began smoothly talk of charity growth community. But when his gaze met hers mid-speech, something faltered. Just slightly. A pause too long. A blink too slow. When the applause ended, he stepped down. But instead of returning to his table, Daniel made a direct line toward Emily. Rachel stayed behind her jaw, tight, her eyes burning with the realization that something wasn't going according to script. Daniel stopped in front of her. I didn't expect you here tonight. Emily looked up from her glass of sparkling water. That much is obvious. Michael remained seated, but didn't move an inch. His calm was protective. I'd like to talk, Daniel said. Emily's eyes flicked to the side. Then let's not waste time pretending this is casual. She stood smooth as silk. But Michael comes with me. They stepped out onto the private balcony overlooking Boston's skyline. The air was cool, crisp. A gentle breeze stirred the drapes. Daniel turned to her, jaw tight. You're making this more public than it needs to be. No, Emily said, her voice a soft blade. You already did that. I'm just correcting the story. He opened his mouth, but she held up a small envelope. Inside were printed emails, hotel invoices, offshore transfers, names, dates, proof. She didn't flinch when he took it from her. She didn't blink when he flipped through the pages, his face growing paler with each one. Where did you get this? Emily's hand rested protectively on her belly. From people who still believe in decency. Something you forgot. His voice dropped. Are you blackmailing me? I'm protecting my daughter. He stepped back. This could ruin everything. You already did that, Daniel. Silence fell between them like snow, and then a twist she hadn't expected. Daniel's voice cracked. I wasn't ready to become invisible. With you pregnant, with everything changing, I thought I was losing myself. Emily stared at him, this man who had once been her home, now reduced to excuses. Then maybe you should have tried staying, she said, instead of disappearing before anyone left you. She turned, ready to walk back inside. Emily, he said behind her. What do you want? She stopped, slowly turned. I want you to understand something, she said. This child will never feel what I've felt these past months. Invisible, ignored, unseen. I will not let that happen. Ever. Daniel said nothing. Michael stepped forward, placed a hand gently on her back. Time to go. As Emily re-entered the ballroom, people turned again. But this time they didn't whisper. They watched with quiet respect. Because now they knew. She wasn't the scandal. She was the reckoning. We're sorry for interrupting the story at this critical moment, but we need to catch our breath just like Daniel did when Emily handed him that envelope. Do you think Daniel deserves a second chance? Or should Emily close the door forever? Tell us in the comments, and if this chapter moved, you please hit the like button and share this video. The days after the gala unfolded with a quiet intensity, like the slow thawing of a long winter. Daniel had gone silent. No calls, no emails, no sudden appearances. But Emily wasn't waiting anymore. She had spent too long shrinking herself to fit the narrative someone else wrote. Now she was rewriting it line by line. Each morning in Hudson Valley began with her walking through the blooming garden behind the house, hand resting lightly on her belly, feeling her daughter turn softly inside her. She had traded fear for intention, chaos for clarity. With the help of Michael Carter and attorney Helen Brooks, Emily began filing the papers for a legal separation. Not out of revenge, but to create space for peace. For Lily, for herself. Daniel didn't resist. When he received the proposal, his only request was to have a say in their child's medical and educational decisions. Emily agreed, not for him, but because she knew her daughter would someday have questions about her father. And Emily wanted to raise her with truth, not bitterness. The agreement was signed without drama. No press, no public spectacle, just two people once inseparable, now closing a chapter with measured grace. And yet healing isn't always a clean line. 1 week later, Daniel asked to visit the nursery. Emily hesitated. The room was nearly ready, painted soft ivory sunlight dancing on the wooden floor, a crib waiting near the window. Books were stacked neatly, toys still wrapped in cellophane. But something in her heart softened. She agreed. Daniel arrived without a driver. No designer suit, just jeans, a gray sweater, and eyes that no longer belonged to the man who once stood beside flashing cameras. He didn't speak much, just looked around the room with the quiet reverence of someone entering a church. When he saw the rocking chair by the window, he ran his fingers along the armrest as if trying to memorize its texture. "She'll be safe here," he finally said. "Yes," Emily replied, "because I've built it that way." He looked at her, his voice lower than she had ever heard it. "Thank you for letting me be here at all." Emily nodded. "Don't thank me, just don't disappear again." Before he left, he handed her a sealed envelope. "It's for her, when she's ready." Emily accepted it without opening. There would be a time. Not now. That night, Emily sat by the window with a cup of chamomile tea and watched the wind stir the branches. She thought of all the women she knew, friends, colleagues, even strangers who had stayed silent, swallowed their pain, folded themselves smaller to make others comfortable. But not anymore. With Michael's support, Emily launched From Heart to Heart, a nonprofit supporting single mothers in transition. It began with a small gathering of women in her garden under the apple trees. Stories were shared, tears were shed, hands were held. No one was alone anymore. Months passed. Then one evening, Lily was born. The labor was long but gentle, just like the girl who arrived, quiet with eyes wide open, as if already knowing the road her mother had walked. Emily held her close, pressing her nose to the newborn's forehead, breathing in the scent of a new beginning. Michael brought a bouquet of white lilies and a wrapped gift, a small wooden music box that played a lullaby Emily's grandmother used to sing. 2 days later, Daniel came to visit. Emily let him hold Lily for the first time. His hands trembled and his voice cracked when he whispered, "Hi, I'm your dad." There were no promises, no long speeches, just presence. Emily didn't forgive everything, but she allowed space for redemption for Lily's sake. Later, while putting Lily to sleep, Emily opened the envelope Daniel had given her. Inside was a letter, handwritten. No excuses, just memories, hopes, and a final line that made her eyes fill with tears. "I didn't know how to be a husband to your mother, but I will learn how to be your father if you'll let me." Emily folded the letter and placed it in a blue fabric box, beside photos, her hospital bracelet, and a blank journal. One day Lily would read it all. Life found a rhythm. Emily spent her mornings tending a small herb garden. Her afternoons were filled with lullabies and nonprofit meetings. Michael remained by her side, steady, respectful, never asking for more than she could give. One crisp autumn morning, as golden leaves fell outside, Michael handed her a small velvet box over breakfast. "This isn't a proposal," he said gently. "It's a reminder. You don't need to say yes today or ever, but if you ever want a new kind of story, one that grows gently without erasing your past, I'd be honored to write it with you." Inside the box was a ring, simple, elegant. Engraved inside, "Thank you for staying." Emily didn't cry. She smiled. She didn't answer with words. She simply reached across the table and took his hand. She had learned that love doesn't always arrive like a storm. Sometimes it comes like the sun, slow, warm, steady. Not everything had been fixed. Not every scar had faded. But for the first time in years, she felt whole. And in that quiet, gentle wholeness, Emily knew she had finally come home to herself. If you were in Emily's shoes, would you have opened your heart to love again? Do you believe some endings are really beginnings in disguise? Tell us in the comments what part of Emily's journey touched you the most. If this story moved you, comment number 3 below. If not yet, write number 1. And if you felt it was just okay, type number 2. Also tell us, what country are you watching from today? Don't forget to drop a heart and share this story with someone who believes in second chances.